Kelvin, good to see you. Our first catch up for a while, and I tend to think when that's the case, it means things are going pretty well. So, how would you sort of sum up the first few months of the season?
Yeah, no, I think we've done okay. I think sitting where we are, you always want to do a bit better. It's natural, it's human nature to want to try and do a bit better. But given the circumstances, given where we are, I think Kevin's done an excellent job, and the squad and the team and I think performances have been decent. I think Saturday we were probably, I think most people recognise we were probably a bit unlucky not to come away with that with any points, and that was encouraging. And I think we've had some good performances. I was back at the Luton game, and again on another day you could have walked away with that with at least a point or even three. So and I think some players are really starting to show what they got signed for. So no, I'm cautiously happy, cautiously pleased. Want to try and kick on as always, but overall we're sitting in a decent place.
Yeah, it looks a very close and competitive League One this year, but we seem to be very much in the pack. We seem to be competitive in pretty much all the games we've played.
Yeah, we have to recognise where we are as well. I think there's a lot of discussion about the finances and the finances of football and the finance of this league. And I think Exeter just recently and Wimbledon have talked about the league table benchmarking numbers that we get, and we're playing teams that have got 17, 18 million pound budgets, and we know where we are in budget wise, and we're certainly not anywhere near that. And but we're competitive, and I think we should be proud of the fact that we are competitive. We're not when we've never said we were going to be the top budget in the league. We've never portrayed to be that, and in fact, the last 3 years, I think there's a 88% increase in salaries over the last 3 years in League One. And we're not going to compete with that. We're not going to keep up with that, but we are, we continue to be competitive. So that's what I think the fans appreciate that, and that's what we have to pride ourselves on.
And a week or two ago, John Guthrie made his return. First steps, of course, on a road. We still got a way to go, but great to see John back on the pitch.
Oh yeah, very much so. I did have a little exchange with John because, I think it's been tough for John. Stage of his career is always a bit, of a tough time. It's always a tough time doing injury. Listen, I've very experienced it with my wife. Just did her ACL about a year and a half ago, and my son's just finishing his rehab now for his. So we've been quite unfortunate in the family. So I know a lot about the injuries, and I know what it takes to come back from it. And I credit to anyone that goes through that injury and comes back, especially as a professional athlete.
December's not far away. That means Christmas, but in the world of football, it means the January transfer window is coming up fast. And I know plans are already underway for the window and probably have been for some time.
Yeah, no, I think we've always improved in windows. I think it's safe to say. Listen, we're never going to sign the players that everyone wants us to sign. We know that. Kevin's well aware of his targets, or if there's targets or players might have to go out to come in, all that sort of stuff. That when we always go into a window with the view that we'll come out of it better the other side, and we'll achieve our goals. So football's never a straight line, and transfer windows are never straight lines. But everyone at the club, everyone knows that there's a confidence and a trust that everyone will work hard to achieve what we can achieve, and become a better squad at the end of it.
Let's talk about a few things off the pitch then. It's been a busy few days, a busy week, really. The Brian Lomax fan zone, we'll start there. Catherine came down to the game on Saturday to officially open the area, and that's been really well received.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things. I think it shows the strength of the relationship with the fans, and I think it started with the Fab and Tom and the work that he does there. Then the fan zones, and we committed to using the Fab committed to using the fan zone money raised to put towards a fan zone, and as a club we committed to matching that, and in fact we're probably going above and beyond that, if I'm honest. If I don't know the final details, but and we wanted to make sure it was yeah, within reason, we wanted to make sure it was a good facility, and the feedback I've received is has been fantastic. I think this, there's been some challenge. There's some spatial challenges in that area in terms of what you can put there, and entrances and exits, etc. And we didn't want it to be a major build in terms of we just completed the East Stand. That was a major build, obviously, but we felt we've done a good job, and I think again it will be the how good of a job that was done at the fan zone will be recognised with the usage. That's the truth. People will use it, and I think Saturday was a prime example. I wasn't there Saturday because it's Thanksgiving week this week, so I'm back in the States. But as James said to me, he said the proof is in the pudding in the sense of the weather was that bad that we wouldn't have had anyone using that area if we hadn't put that sort of structure up. So that's a big positive, and I think for Catherine, it was really nice. I think from the feedback I got, she'd done a bit of work with Martin Church when Brian was alive, and they'd spent some time together. So she was able to see Martin again and spend some time with him in the boardroom, and it was great to. And I think she really appreciated that she was invited down, and it was unfortunate that Emily was couldn't attend because I think she was sick, but hopefully she's on the way to recovery now, and I believe she was happy with the pictures, and I think it was touching for them that the fans and the club remembered Brian in that way.
And good to see the Football Supporters Association remembering or honouring the fact that Brian has been remembered in that way.
Yeah, I think the FSA have gone through, a change in terms of identity. So, but it's my understanding that Brian started Supporters Direct, or was very involved, influential in the starting of Supporters Direct, as he was the trust at the club, and that was basically the beginnings of the FSA. So Brian was very involved, and it was nice of them to recognise it as well.
Let's go back 24 hours previous, then on to the Friday night and recognition for the East End construction.
So that was a great night, and I'm really pleased for especially James and the team that were so involved in the build and on a daily basis, and to get that recognition, Avril, mine, and her team, and everyone that was part of that, and GRS were able to enjoy it. I know Martin was there, and he's a great character, and I was talking to John, the chief exec, quite a few times over the period, and congratulations too to the other finalists. It was a Vulcan Works. I've not been there myself, but I've heard it's a really good facility, and to beat off really some really good other developments, and just the recognition for the work that's gone into that stand. And again, everything all the feedback I get is just very, very positive about the East Stand, and I think James and the team at the club have done a fantastic job of that, becoming with Jason from the catering side, and it just become a facility that it's almost like we've always had it. It's special, but it's just natural for it to be there. So we're very pleased, and to get that recognition, it's not recognition to any individual recognition. It's for the whole club. It's for the whole community. So we're happy we were very happy and
Having
proud.
having been at the awards ceremony, the two things that stood out for me was the judges headed by Nick Hewer, well respected, of course, from his time on The Apprentice, was firstly the quality of the finish and the quality of the stand, and secondly the fact it was very much a Northamptonshire production with a lot of local tradespeople, contractors, etc., all contributing, and that really struck a chord from what the judges said.
Yeah, it was a key part of the development, really, and to use local as much as you can. You can't do it for everybody, and and every trade can't be involved because there's only a certain amount of things that need to be done. But It was really good to see, like, box holders and people like that working on site during the construction and having a chat with them, and just regular, normal fans, just who are, that's part of their job to be, working for some of these guys and girls, and it's really encouraging. It was really good to see. So to be recognised for that is even better. And with GRS, GRS are it's a big company. It's a big company, and they do very diversified, but they really were focused on this stand. It was a big project for them in terms of, not necessarily in terms of size. It probably certainly wasn't the biggest project they've taken on, but in terms of their effort and their energy and their desire to do something right, it was a massive project for them, and they really took it seriously, and they really delivered on what they said. And people forget, because of the length of time it took with all the leases and the all the delays and the ACV judicial review, all of that stuff. It seemed like a long time, but the actual build time was incredibly quick considering. And so all credit to James and the team and his start and all the staff at the club, and John with GRS and Martin, etc. It was really good to see.
We're actually talking on quite a special day, Kelvin, because it's 10 years to the day since the change of ownership, since you and your partners took ownership of the club. What are your memories of 10 years ago today?
Feels like yesterday. Uh, wow, the memories. I actually went to the Crawley game. I think I don't think we'd actually closed the deal, but if I remember rightly, we'd agreed the deal on the Monday. I think I went to the Crawley game on the Tuesday, and then I think we ended up signing the deal on the Wednesday or Thursday. But the overriding memory was we actually signed the deal at 2 a.m. in the morning. And I signed it in David's Banbury office, with the lawyers, a couple of the lawyers still there. So it was a quite an intense period. That's what I do remember about the deal. And there was a lot of work to do in that first few weeks. What else do I remember? At the time that I remember yours and Nick's office at the time when first time we walked in that office. And Nick certainly had a lot of stuff in there. I don't know how you got in there and in and out of there every day, Gareth, but no, and just really the overriding feeling of relief for the club, for the players, for the fans, for the staff. They're all really difficult periods, and we were lucky because I had such a good relationship with Chris, and a few players that had already played for me at Oxford. So, Ryan and Alfie were both at the club, and so when we walked into that first meeting with the players and the playing staff, it was a little bit easier because I'd already, I think Chris had told everyone that I was all right, that we were all right, we weren't idiots. Probably got that wrong, but probably idiots for coming in the first place. But no, and all credit to, like, David, as really, and Mike as well, in terms of at the time of the board. But David definitely goes unnoticed quite a bit, and he's definitely lower key, and people don't realise that David's there sometimes, and David does come to the club a bit more than people realise in terms of during the week and even matches. But he is definitely a low key individual, but has been, David's put his money where his mouth is, and he's backed the club quietly and through some tough periods, in terms of like COVID and etc. etc. So none of this could have happened without David. And now, and I know we're talking about, the time of the takeover and those memories, but Nigel coming in and just with the whole board, Nigel's been fantastic for us, and his support has come on board, and the three of us as owners really work well together. And then with the rest of the board, with Jim, James, Mike, and Tom adding to that, and it's been I think we've got a decent setup as it is right now. But there's definitely been some ups and some downs, but a lot of ups over this 10-year period.
It's quite a lengthy list of achievements, both on the pitch in terms of promotions and off the pitch in terms of development and awards, etc., over the last 10 years. What are you most proud of from that list?
Kind of doing what we said we would do. I think we always came in and we said, we never came in with a grand plan. We talked about we're going to finish the stand, and we were going to pay the bills. And I think 10 years is a decent enough period to say that I think we've done what we said we were going to do. And really what we did say at the time, that the goal was always to make the club better, when you leave. And Nigel's kind of come in with that same goal, as and he's come alongside us with that same goal. And I think we could leave today and certainly say we've achieved that. In terms of specific things, getting through COVID the way we did, very proud of that. I think a lot of businesses, a lot of people can say that, but coming out of COVID, surviving, paying people, topping up salaries, and winning an award for what the work from the community aspect that what the club did. And I know, Gareth, you probably didn't get nowhere near enough credit for that when you were, since, but you were very much involved in that process of the calls that we made during COVID, and I made calls, and Keith and Colin made calls, and players. And to be fair, that very proud of the way that the club reacted during that time. The obvious things at the East Stand, incredibly proud of that. Again, another award, to recognise that work. The fact that we did it in the face of a lot of, well, no, I wouldn't say a lot of, the face of some strong opposition, shall we say, in certain areas. And so proud of the fact that we got that done. We always say, and just again, proud of the fact that we've done things that some people said we wouldn't do. The training grounds, massive step for the club. I know, it's and a financial step for the club. And then you look at on the pitch, and you talk about the three promotions, and I think we've had three very different types of promotions, which has been quite enjoyable in doing them in different ways. Um, and and very proud for that. And on the pitch, exceptionally proud that out of the 10 years, we've had 6 years in League One, and in fact, three consecutive years in League One. I think, people underestimate sometimes that achievement, and especially the last 3 years, when you look at the salaries that we've been going up against and the budgets that other clubs have got in this league. And listen, football finances are a mess. There's no two ways about it. I think Michael Eisner at Pompey even said it last night at a meeting. He's just come out and said, the EFL finances are a disaster, and not the league itself, but the clubs. So absolutely, and we do. There's a lot of conversation right now that we're part of, which is talking about salaries, cost control, regulators, money coming down from the Premier League, TV deals, etc., etc. There's a lot, but there's no hiding from the fact that it's costing a lot more money now to be in almost the same place, and that's just the reality of the situation. That's not because of anything that anyone's done. And as owners, we recognise we've got to spend that money to try and compete. So we're very proud of the fact that we've managed to stay in League One last 3 years, and over the period, having 6 years in League One. And I think if you look at the history of Northampton, that's over each 10-year period, I think it's not often that you've had a 6-year period of that in League One. So proud of that. And the truth is, and immensely proud of really just what the club's become in terms of the community aspect of it. And I think the club's always been has always been a community club, but I think it's one of the areas that we've really enhanced. I spoke to James a couple of days ago, and we talked about when we took over the first meetings with the community trust at the time. It's safe to say that at the time of takeover, the community trust was not a significant partner of the club. It wasn't really embraced. It wasn't really doing much, and it was also significantly in debt for a community trust. And we've turned that around now, and the work we've done with them, and the help and the support and the assistance. I think we've got one of the best community trusts in the country, and the awards that we've received, say that as well. Proofs in the pudding. So that makes us immensely proud. The people that we work with, the fans, the staff. I think we've got a wonderful staff, and I thank every one of them. We thank every one of them because without them, the club couldn't function. So, so those sort of things are, there's a lot of areas that I think we've improved, and the statistics stand up. Attendances are up. Capacity is up. We walked in with no seats in the East Stand. Now we've got a fully functional, pitch facing hospitality. All of that stuff that people can see. I love being out there, and it makes me tremendously proud coming to games and seeing how accessible, our wheelchair fans being able to watch the game from that raised area. Those sort of things. And those are the good things that have happened and the good things that we've tried to achieve. So, lots of stuff to be proud of, lots of stuff. And there's a lot of people to thank for us to get there. And, it's definitely been a 10 years. It's definitely been a 10 years, probably a bit grayer, probably see it.
But on top of all that, Kelvin, when you walked through the door 10 years ago, you inherited a club that had a £16 million external debt. So to achieve all of that while also stabilising the club, no mean feat.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know if it was all external, but either way, it was. And we've got similar debt levels now, and but we've also got a completed stand. That's the big difference. And the club owns some land, which hopefully will bring the debt down. And we've always had the view that we'd like to leave the club when we do leave the club, if we do leave the club, in a sort of debt-free position, and that's still the goal. It's we can all get carried away with land deals and all that kind of stuff, but and it's and that's another battle. Well, I don't know if it'll be a battle, but we are going through planning, and that's massively important for the finances of the football club that we're able to achieve that. And what we do with it after, whether we sell it or we develop, or those are decisions for later. But to get the planning will crystallize some of the value for the club. And let's not, everyone can see the debt levels. Let's not hide from the fact that whatever we do with the land, if it clears the debt or gets close to that, we'll be very happy. This isn't, one of the things that Nigel and David and myself all have recognised from the get-go is this is not going to be a profit-making enterprise, and in fact, we may even lose some money at some point. That's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. But but I can assure you that the planning and attaining the planning for the club is massively important, and so there is that upcoming, but otherwise I think we're in a decent place.
We've spent some time looking back. Let's just end by looking ahead. And Kevin Nolan said yesterday that the way for a club like Northampton Town to progress is incrementally, bit by bit, step by step, in all directions, in all departments. He feels we're doing that. I'm sure that's a sentiment you would echo.
Yeah, I don't think anybody. Well, I'll take that back a little bit. I know there's probably a couple, but I don't think the high majority, 99% of people, could actually look back 10 years and look at the club then and look at the club now and not say that we haven't progressed. I think that's a given, really. I think any normal fan, any normal person would look at the comparative statistics or the comparative numbers and go, yeah, they're in a better place. So, whether it's taken 10 years, it should have taken 5 years, or whether it's taken 20 years and it should have taken, 15 years. That we can argue those points, but the reality is the club's in a better place. League position, tendencies, community work, East Stand, all of that stuff, training ground, scoreboard, silly, not I want to say silly little things, but staffing levels, we are in a better place. And Kevin's right, and I think you know, Kevin said some really nice things, but that's all out of discussions that we have and realistic conversations that say, this is kind of where we're at, and did we think we would be investing the levels we would be? If you go back 10 years, do you think, where the club would be maybe break even, maybe lose 500,000, maybe lose 1 million? Yeah, we're at a place now where we're losing 2.5 million quid, on an annual basis, and that's just purely down to costs have gone up. It's not been, we're not saying, oh, we're now got a budget that's in the top three. We're further away from that than we were 10 years ago. That's for sure. But we're still losing 2.5 million quid. So there is a commitment, from self, David and Nigel, that to cover that, and it's not an easy commitment all the time. So we definitely, I would agree with Kevin that we definitely we continue to improve, and I think over this 10-year period we've proved that, and we've got a level of trust that we will do what we can. So we're very, very happy and very, very proud of what we have achieved as a group. All of us, every single one of us has been part of that, and we're proud of that, and we hold our heads up high, and we take that forward, and we'll continue to do what's right.
Well, thanks for your time today, Kelvin, and I'm sure on behalf of all supporters, thank you for everything that you and your fellow owners and directors have done over the last 10 years, and here's to the future.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. And I'm gonna go now to get on with the Thanksgiving turkey and with the family. And I'm actually coming back on ready for the Wickham game actually, so I'll be at the Wickham game. So looking forward to it.
See you then.
Thanks, Gareth.